Let's talk about a concluding chapter of a horror trilogy. Oh, wait. Out of hell with it. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone had a great Halloween on Sunday. We sure did as a family. My son got to go trick-or-treating, then he came back to the house and helped me run around the yard, scaring people, because we had plenty of people come and see our decorations. And for candy, I dressed up as this gentleman right here, and we're going to talk about him in a second. Today we're going to talk about the concluding chapter of the Scream trilogy. Yes, I am saying that as a joke because we all know they made Scream 4 in 2011. We're getting a brand new Scream January 14th of next year, which I'm very excited about because I really do like this franchise. Before we get into this review though, let me just hit the like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here, hit the bell so you get a notification every time I upload a video. And next week, Thursday, I'm going to see a 37th anniversary screening of Ghostbusters in preparation for Ghostbusters Afterlife in a few weeks. So I'm going to have an out-of-the-theater review for that. Now, I've seen Ghostbusters many times, but I have not reviewed it. I'm taking my son. We're going to go see it. So I'm going to have an out-of-the-theater review for that. I'm going to review Ghostbusters 2 coming up, getting ready for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I have a review next week for Delta Force 2 that's been highly requested over many months since I did the first Delta Force and my Chuck Norris review. So I'm going to have that coming soon and many others. Now, on to Scream 3. Now, Scream 3 came out February 4th of the year 2000. It's rated R, like they all were. Had a budget of $40 million, and upon release, it made $89 in America, which was lower than the other two, but still a hefty total for a horror film. And worldwide, it made $161 million, so it did make Dimensions a lot of money. But this was the lesser well-received one out of the three films released to that point. Now, Wes Craven was back to direct this film. Kevin Williamson did write an outline for this film, but he did not write the script. He was busy with other projects, so Aaron Kruger came in and wrote the script for this film. And you can kind of tell. I don't think the script's quite as clever, although I don't hate this film. I actually do quite enjoy this film. It's just, we'll see how I feel at the end of this review. Now, for our cast, we got Neve Campbell back as Sidney Prescott. Although this film doesn't focus, it does. She's in the film quite a bit in the last act, but at the beginning of the film, we only see her in little bits and pieces here and there. They definitely concentrate on the production of Stab 3. Yes, they're making a third part in the Stab franchise that's based on the Woodsboro murders. David Arquette's back as Dewey. He's a technical advisor on this film. He's working with, and he lives at Parker Posey's character's house, and she's playing Gail Weathers in the film. Courtney Cox is back as Gail Weathers, and she's still a reporter. Patrick Dempsey's a new addition to the cast. He plays Detective Kincaid, and he was actually hired a day before they started shooting, so he had basically no time to prepare for this role. Lance Hendrickson plays John Milton. He is a horror producer, and he's producing the Stab film, Stab 3, especially at Sunrise Studios. And Roger Corman makes a cameo, and it's always nice to see Roger Corman because he's a legend in this business. And pretty much in the beginning of the film, we see Cotton Weary. That's how we start our film, with the death of Cotton Weary and his girlfriend. Now, I would say I do like the beginning of this film because Scream 1 has that great beginning with Drew Barrymore. It's fantastic. It's classic. I love that. It's so well done. And so is the rest of that first film. The first film to me is an absolute classic. I absolutely love that film. I love the second opening to the part 2 with Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith. I love that opening. I always love when something creepy and scary and somebody gets killed in a movie theater. I think it's a fabulous setting for a murder. If you want to see another really good one, check out 10 Till Midnight with Charles Bronson. There's a great movie theater kill in that film as well. And this one isn't quite on par with the first two, especially not the first one. I wouldn't even say it's on par with the second one, but it's still a fun opening. We see Cotton Weary. He's a talk show host now, and Ghostface kills him and his girlfriend. That's how the film starts. And we see that Sid is living up in the hills somewhere off the grid. Like, nobody knows where she lives really. Dewey does, and her dad does, but nobody else does. And she has a job working on this phone line to help people with their problems, pretty much. She's a crisis counselor. That's what she does. And she works under an assumed name, obviously, because she doesn't want nobody to know. She even says to her dad, psychos can't kill what they can't find. So that's her reasoning for being there after what happened in the first two. And I do like what Wes Craven does here. She is still wearing the letters when she shows up later in the film, and she goes back to L.A. and she shows up at the police station. She's wearing the Greek letters that Derek gave her from part 2. I thought that was a nice touch. It made me smile that they kept that from part 2. They don't really reference part 2 a whole lot besides that. They do say about Windsor College, but they more concentrate about the first film. And definitely the reason why everything's happening in this film is because of that first film. They're interconnected, definitely. So the people in the cast of Stab 3 start dying in the order they're dying in the script. And Dewey and Gail are trying to figure it out. Gail's working with the police because she wrote the book on this. And they're trying to figure out who it is. And at the end of the film, the last part of the film takes place in John Milton's mansion. By this point, Sidney has come back to the world. And all of our remaining characters that are still alive converge on this mansion. Ghostface shows up and we have our final confrontation. And we figure out we see who the killer is. He's dispatched, and that's the end of Scream 3. But at the film, they literally leave the door open. Sidney, Gail, Dewey, and Detective Kincaid are at her house, and they're about to watch a movie. And she closes the door, and she just put an alarm on. She doesn't. And she's walking away, the door blows open. She just looks at it, smiles, and walks away. Metaphorically leaving the door open for possible sequels. Although supposedly this was going to be the last one. And we got Scream 4 in 2011. Things to like about this film. Our returning cast, it's always great to see these characters, these actors in these roles. I really like Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott. She's one of our best final girls of all time, I think, anyway. I like Gail and Dewey together. They're not together anymore, but they're button heads. But it's always fun, and then they come together to try to solve what's going on. I like our new additions to the cast because we got some other really great additions to the cast playing cast members in Stab 3. We got Emily Mortimer in an early role. We got Jenny McCarthy playing a role. Parker Posey, as I said. We have we have Lance Henriksen in this film as John Milton. So we have some great new additions. Patrick Dempsey's pretty good as Detective Kincaid. He's in the film, and there's red herrings during the film like they do in all the Scream films. I like the ending. The killer wasn't too much of a surprise even when I saw it in the theaters. It ends up being the director, Roman, and he ends up, in the big revelation, is Sidney's mother's son when she got pregnant when she was in Hollywood. We find out that some kind of fucked up shit happened to her mom in Hollywood. She went to Hollywood, made some horror movies, and she might have been taken advantage of by men in the industry to get roles, and Roman was the product of that, and she abandoned him and went back to Woodsboro, married Sidney's father, had Sidney. And he even says how he showed up one day and she wouldn't have nothing to do with him. And he followed her and made a movie of her having sex with Billy's dad, showed it to Billy, gave them some tips. And so he was Billy and Stu's inspiration in the first film, he claims anyway. And that's basically our killer. There's definitely red herrings. They set up other characters that could possibly be the killer, like the other Scream films. There's always, you gotta throw the scent off the main character. But I always felt, even when I saw this in the theaters that year, I always thought it was Roman through the whole film, and I would happen to be right. I don't think it's hidden as well as the first two films. I think the first two films do a better job at misdirection than this film. Some things negative-wise, well, in our positive, it's well directed by Wes Craven. They had a nice, healthy budget of $40 million. All the acting's great across the board. It's not as gory, because around this time Columbine happened, and at one point Wes Craven said that the Weinsteins were going to try to make this a PG-13 Scream film, and Wes Craven fought it, and he goes, what are we doing here? I might as well just make a different film and call it something else. Scream's not meant to be PG-13, so he got his way, it stayed R. But if you watch the film, yes, there's violence in the film for sure, because it's a horror film, but the blood in that is definitely toned down compared to the first two films. They made up for it in part 4, which we'll talk about closer to the release of the new film. I'll do that in January. Some things I don't care about in this film. I don't think it's as clever as the first two films. You can tell Kevin Williamson's missing here. Aaron Kruger does a nice enough job. I have fun with the story. I like that it's centered around his production of this third film in the Stab trilogy. But it's just not as interesting as the first two films. I still have fun with it. I still enjoy this film. I know this is considered the lesser of the first three, but I still enjoy it. It's not a bad entry in this franchise at all. And I had fun with it, rewatching it again for the first time in a while. I have the box set with the first three on Blu-ray, and I have the fourth on its separate Blu-ray. Other than that, I think that's about all I got for this one. I would give Scream 3 a 7 out of 10. I think it's a really good third entry. It's not as good as the first two, but I've always enjoyed this film. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for Scream 3. What are your thoughts on Scream 3? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video. I really would appreciate that. I'll be back later in the week with a review for Ghostbusters 1984. Until then, I hope you're all doing well out there, and bye.